Welcome to The Geek in Review, the podcast focused on innovative and creative ideas in the legal industry. I'm Marlene Gaybauer.
And I'm Greg Lambert.
So this week, Greg, we are joined by Gabriela, Gaby Isturiz, a serial entrepreneur in the legal tech space, co-founder of the Fund XX, and founder of multiple high-growth software as a service companies acquired by Fortune 500 firms. Gaby, welcome to The Geek in Review.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here with you guys.
It's good to see you again.
We're excited too. Yeah, you guys met at
TLTF. Yeah,
TLTF.
We were. I was lucky enough to have lunch with her. I was told by a number of people, it's like, you have to have lunch with Gaby. I'm like, okay. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad I did. We had such a wonderful conversation, and I'm so glad you agreed to come on with us.
Yeah. So before we jump in and talk about the Fund XX, let's get into a little bit of a topic, and since you do a lot with startups, really wanted to kind of get your perspective on this.
So with so much happening in the generative AI space, we've been really curious about how legal tech startups are responding to both the opportunities and the challenges it presents. So how do you think AI is changing the way startups position themselves to investors and users?
That's kind of like that question, and I would say there is so much going on in such a short time, right? So just in a few weeks, so we had the announcement of the Stargate project, right? What is it? $500 billion investment. The next week, we had OpenAI operator, right? The next week we have a DeepSeek, so right. So completely shocked the world, right? So the next, we have a deep research, right? And then all other announcements from, other big LLMs and all that. So much going on. Everybody has an opinion, right? Everybody has a crystal ball. But being an entrepreneur, doing investments, everything comes down to one thing. Enterprise customers do not care about your AI feature, period. And this is not popular. I was reading a research, and again, I'm talking about enterprise customers, B2B SaaS. I was reading super interesting research conducted by a product consulting company. They interview about 767 business tech users, mostly blue collar, and they kind of like they wanted to validate the A labeling and the impact they had in their purchasing decision, right? So right now, what we're seeing is this startup, right? We're AI power driven platform, right? We are the AI agentic, right? So it's this urge to label yourself as an AI player, whether and in whatever capacity you do it. So they said, okay, let's research this and really understand what the customers do. So they went on, they did this research, they got, and I'll share with you the link because I think it's fascinating. So they presented the subjects, the users, with two landing pages. One page, for example, and I'm going to read it, one of the landing page. It was for Intuit. One would say, your generative AI-powered financial assistant, right? The other will say, your on-demand financial assistant, save time, stress, and make money, okay? So one, it's kind of like the super in-your-face, AI-powered, AI-driven. The other one, it's more about the value. So what they find out, it was really fascinating, okay? So rather than, enhancing this perception using the term generative AI, it significantly lowered the expectations of the product and the potential impact. Okay. So it could have been because, people do not trust the technology yet, especially when we are talking about B2B enterprise. But more surprisingly, is that the customers didn't feel they should pay more. Okay? So at the end of the day, Marlene, Greg, it all comes down, are you adding value? Are you adding value to the customer? Are you solving their problems? And yes, kind of like powering up your solution utilizing AI. So now, founders would say, okay, everybody's using it, right? We have this logo. We even have the big like Salesforce, right? With agentics, right? So you have already a HubSpot. The big ones are using everything AI, right? And if I'm the small company, right, how come I'm not gonna be using it? So my thought in this is be incredibly mindful how you balance the jargon using AI driven and the value that you put in. Because at the end of the day, customers are buying on the value that you provide, not on the features that you deliver, right? And even though that, Gen AI itself, it's a force multiplier.
I have a couple points, and this sort of mirrors what you're saying, like in the legal space, where you have clients asking firms, okay, if you have these tools, like what is the value you're going to give to me on this? And I will say that honestly, I think firms are still kind of struggling to be able to crystallize that, because they're still just kind of getting their hands around how do we use this, and don't really have anything so that is concrete to be able to tell people. The other thing I was thinking was, you were mentioning like things are just moving so fast, all these announcements, and things were moving fast before, and now they're even moving faster. And for a while, at least in the legal tech space, we were seeing that startups were trying to at least be a little more transparent. They were trying, they had like scores and accuracy scores, and some were actually being more transparent about sort of how how things were, how their stuff worked. And now I wonder, is that going to just be like thrown by the wayside because it's just moving too quickly to actually even do that?
So I think the way that I see it's too much output that we haven't seen ever before. The ability to create product, it's unprecedented, and it compounds in the past technology revolutions, right? And that's why now we're able to do it. But at the end of the day, it's our firms, organizations able to adopt, implement, and retain these technologies, at the pace that this innovation is coming at you. So remember, if we believe as a founders and startups and scaling organizations that selling is hard, right? I will argue that buying is harder, right? In your shoes, when you have all these myriad of technologies, right? Solving for a flavor of that, right? And chances are that you have probably not a formidable solution working right now, right? But obviously you have something that works. So for the new builders and the innovators, they really need to craft this balance between, am I delivering a 10x feature, right? Am I delivering 10 times value for me to move this organization to to this new frontier? Okay. And yes, so that's, I think that's one of the biggest challenge, and not just in legal tech, but professional services tech in general, which is very manual and very people intensive practices.
And I think that's hearing you talk about don't sell the underlying product, but rather sell the value that the product is bringing, is something that as a buyer, that's probably my hardest explanation back to, the partnership that says, okay, we want you to invest, hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars into a product. And it's hard to say, but it's got AI. And instead of saying, well, this is where you're really going to get your return on your investment. This is what the value is. Well, thanks for going on the side journey with us on this. Wanted to make sure that while we had you here, kind of wanted to talk about that issue. But now let's switch over and talk about the fund XX. So, Gabby, what inspired you to co-found a venture capital fund, and how is the fund XX unique in its mission to support women-led startups?
Yeah, I think, and Greg, like many things in life, you just stumble upon that. And it's probably casual to say, but not that casual when you are intentional about it, right? So I sold the last company, Robert Aaron bought that. And so I woke up one day. It was an strategic buyer. We didn't have to stay with the company for long. And then I wake up one day. I didn't have a job, right? Nobody was going to hire me. I wasn't looking for a position either, right? And I'm sitting there, and I have a non-compete that I cannot do the only thing that I knew to do professional, right? Which was legal tech, building and growing companies. I couldn't do that. So, and then it's like, okay, what do I do with all this knowledge that I have, right? Now, when I'm thinking I'm at my prime, right? And I cannot use it. And all of a sudden, it was kind of like the word got out. Gaby sold these companies, right? Been very successful. So I have these amazing, diverse founders coming to me. Hey, Gaby, what do you think about this idea? Hey, and I immediately realized this is what I want to do with my life in this phase of my life. I want to help other women like me, right? Minority Latinas like me to really be able to achieve the successes. So right after I started writing my own checks, right? Investing in these founders. I became an angel investor. Then, I became LP investor in different VC funds, private equity. And all of a sudden, it's like I had this opportunity to start a women fund run by, women general partners and investing in women. And so I was approached by two incredible investors, and we immediately clicked. We were absolutely aligned in the mission that women are grossly underfunded. And fast forward, so we started the fund. Fast forward, we have made 30 amazing investments, and now we're about to start our fund.
So I'm curious, what's the criteria that you use when you're evaluating the startups so that kind of, have a rule of thumb of, what they're doing that enables you to be comfortable in investing in them?
Yeah. So first of all, they gotta be early stage. So our VC fund only invests just because of the size of the fund as well. We only invest in early stage, and when I say early stage, it's a pretty much first check in, pre-seed or seed, developing tech companies or tech-enabled companies with valuations under $10 million to make the unit economics work for us, right? So why $10 million? Because, that's we need to have a meaningful participation in this round. So that's kind of like the main criteria. Technology is clear, tech-enabled, it's a little bit more gray. For example, we invested in electric flosser, first in the market, and obviously she's growing like crazy, and it's tech-enabled because she needs all these technical infrastructure to be able to foster that growth, right? So we are sector agnostic for as long as you are in tech or tech-enabled. but a little bit more on kind of like on the second kind of like a set of criteria that we look in. It's is the market where these innovations or these companies are playing are big enough. Why we need it to be big enough? Because there is something that is called, these companies need to be fund returnable, right? I mean, it's very different. I will invest in a company that is doing something great, right? For their community, but it's incredible. But as a fund, right, we're looking for those outsized returns. And one of the key for that, it's are you operating in a market where your TAM, your addressable market is large enough for us? And then there are some other, hate to say soft skills, right? But there are some other more intangibles, right? It's how well the founder can sell their ideas, right? How well the level of energy, how responsive they are when they come into the meeting, did their research on all the GPs, right? Are we aligned in thesis as well? And there are some sectors that we don't get in, Greg, Marlene, which is robotics, right? FDA approved deep tech because they're heavy capital demanding, and that's not a place for us to be.
So, Gaby, you've built two SaaS companies that were acquired by Fortune 500 companies. And I imagine there are lots, you've experienced, so much in doing that, and there's probably lots of lessons to be learned for the rest of us. So what would you say was sort of the most challenging aspect of scaling these businesses?
Geez, everything. So,
and I mean, I know you have some great stories behind this too.
Yeah, I think, getting to scale, the first thing is you have to have a problem solution fit, right? It's my solution, really solving problems, right? So that's kind of like the first hurdle. And then kind of like you start figuring out some actions, right? You have some early customers, you have some design partners, right? Okay, so there is a small group that, they're willing to, use our product. We're solving a problem for them, and they also are willing to pay. So that's kind of like the first work. Then it's this thing called product market fit. Okay, now you have a set of customers, 5 to 10, right? So now can you get it to the next wave, right? Where they're really paying for their services, but more importantly, can you retain them, right? Because how many products you buy, you have on the shelf, because the product wasn't mature enough. They didn't have the services. So once you have, a set of customers and you reach some financial milestones as well, right? You gotta be north $2 million in revenue, right? So then you start, you're exhausted, you're doing all this, right? The next frontier is, how do I scale this? The challenge, Marlene, is scaling. It's what took you to this phase of achieving product market fit, already being recognized as a brand, right? Or as a trusted vendor, is not going to take you there, right? Mm-hmm. Why? The people that work for you or with you at the beginning, they bring a skill set that it's probably for a nimble company, a startup, roll up your sleeves, do everything. For you to scale, you need to start incorporating processes, procedures, methods, right? You need to start hiring people, and you gotta do it in a very systematic way, right? So you need a new set of skills, people that have done companies taking it to $10 million in revenue, $20 billion in revenue, and that changes completely the landscape. So for us, it was retaining the capital, the people capital, right? Acquiring a new set of a skill set that we didn't have, right? So because getting this in kind of like learning a new game when you think you already nail it, right? So you never do. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's a little bit of the challenges there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of things that you said in there that I wanted to kind of pull on. I like when you talked about the problem solution fit. And the thing I really liked about it was the problem came first, then the solution, and then you also talked about the market fit. And so I know one of the things when you're looking at a market is confronting the incumbents that may already be in the market. And you had a great article titled "Confronting the 800-Pound Gorilla," which talks about the strategies. Can you give a couple of strategies on how on what you talked about with dealing with incumbents that are in that market?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I think that every builder or every founder has to have a little insight of what you're dealing as you go up market. So in B2B SaaS, enterprise SaaS, chances are there's always going to be an incumbent or a number of incumbents. Those are our 800-pound gorillas, right? In legal tech, we have the LexisNexis, Walter Kluwer, right? Thomson Reuters, Roper, right? And now we have Litera and some others, right? And they're there because they have gained the trust of the market, and they also have the distribution. They have thousands of clients, right? So how do you, you're building this company, you want to grow, you want to get to scale. How do you do that, right? Why they're going to buy from me, right? If Thomson Reuters, it's bigger, better, and faster, not never cheaper, of course, right?
Nope.
And so the thing is, it's for founders, you really need to find one thing or a couple of things that you can do better than they do, right? So kind of like be absolutely laser focused when you're doing this. In kind of like a little bit of an example, if when we created Evening Hub, right? So the incumbent had some products, but they were very kind of like a spreadsheet based, right? And very manual, right? So we're really kind of like a concentrated in this sliver, how we do that better than them. So we had the upper hand, and I say we, the startups, the nimble, builders, because we can iterate through problems a lot faster. The incumbent, you gotta put a business case. You have the analysts, they have to approve the business case, then they have to find the budget. And while they're doing all that, right, we already have new features, right? Great. So, but how do you really win this game, Greg? It's that you gotta beat them. This is a little bit of the David and the Goliath, right? So you gotta beat them in the market, right? And you beat them in the market with one caveat that I'm gonna tell you. So you beat them in the market, it's by getting into their market share, okay? So when you start getting all these firms, they're satisfied, they go and talk to the incumbent and said, can you integrate with them, right? So they have a great product. Now you get the attention and immediately you become an acquisition target. Yeah. It's a playbook that almost always works with a caveat. Number one, and it's important to know because the way, the speed that technology is moving right now, right? This is it's a shift into how the 800-pound gorillas and the innovation it used to work, right? So one caveat is they need to be competitive in some set of their organizations. So they will buy probably a less mature solution, right? Just to buy their tech, their team, and that's typically called an occupier. It could be very compelling for the startup, right? But also you might be as a founder, leaving money or some opportunities on the table because you haven't been able to be the risk enough, either market share, get the revenues, get the growth, to get evaluations that we all dream. But I think the most important thing, it's the incumbent always, it's kind of like on the driver's seat because they have the distribution, right? So, I have to get my database, my CRM of 4,000 law firms to sell. They're already selling to them, right? Pretty much everybody that I want to sell to, they're already in that account. So that's when they own the distribution. What happens right now is with the ease of building product, getting it to market because all the AI, right? And I will double click on something to make the case of how fast product development is going, right? So the incumbents are already creating their own AIs, right? So why do I have to wait for this company that Gaby created 3 years to de-risk it, right? Or 4 years to de-risk it? That because before it was going to take me 5-6 years to do this, right? And I will have to derive kind of like a reroute my resources that I don't have, right? Right now, the incumbents are really creating amazing products, right? Equally as fast as startups, right? Case in point, Salesforce, right? HubSpot. They're putting these agents, right? They have all these that are absolutely outpacing as well some of the AI, powered by AI startups.
Yeah.
So it's a different game. It's fascinating, but the game is changing quickly. Makes
Yeah.
sense?
One quick follow up to that one. So there was a time, and I think there was a long time where startups would do what you're talking about, where they would be very good at one particular segment in the market, and then there was almost a routine that you would see, and that was they would create it, they would then get it acquired by a larger company. They would write out the 2 or 3 year non-compete. And then they would go right back into the market and essentially create the same product over again. And I think of Accurant and TLO as a good example of that in the legal industry. Is that something that you think that is still achievable, or do you think the market with AI is changing so fast that that type of build, sell, repeat can that still be done?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so because of the whole thing that I see with AI. It's AI. It's also rethinking the way they always um, you know approach to problems was done, right? So not only that, right, but it's also exposing new workflows, right? New ways to approach workflows, right? New ways that, I mean, it's not a repeat of what was done before. So what I do see possible, and now, my non-compete is out, right? I still see immense amount of opportunities, but you cannot do kind of like a redo it again, right? Today, you really have to uh, uh, have a vision of a 5 years out, which is probably in today's day very long, as opposed to try to redo the same because they couldn't sell it as well as you did, right? So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So I'm going to switch topics a little bit to billing in the legal industry. So there are
I love that.
there are many products out there. I've looked at a number of these that are focused on billing, on automatically putting together pre-bills, on capturing time, and that can impact the billable model. Some of these other tools that we see out there that sort of speed, just sort of getting your base level of work together, that can impact, the billable model. How do you see these changes playing out? I know I talked about this like last year, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be over, and it's like it's not over yet. Yeah. So I'm wondering.
We were planning on 3 episodes of how the billable hour was dead this year.
We were so happy, but it didn't play out, or it hasn't yet. So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts for the future on that?
Yeah, even when I got in legal tech, which is probably 17, 20 years ago, the billable hour was dead by then, right? And actually, it was about to die 20 years prior to that, right? So case in point, the billable hour has shown all of us that it's incredibly resilient, right? And no matter what happens, it stays there, right? So, and again, I mean, we see, more alternative FAAs, right? And those type of things. But I think if you kind of like peel the onion, the core that we cannot ignore is the nature of professional services. I mean, it's very different. I sell technology that, print pages, right? Or help you with contacts, right? So when in professional services, and it's not just legal, right? You have legal, accounting, consulting, engineering. What you're selling is your time, right? Your time is your product, right? That's what you get paid for, right? So based on this business model, right? I'll give you time, you give me money, right? So it's not like I give you time and you give me cows, no, right? So, right? So or you give me a timeshare, right? So if this exchange of my work for money, right? So with that, I do believe that there are going to be evolutions because of the pressure that AI is putting on optimization, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's workflow optimization, especially professional services. So I entirely believe that a lot of the repetitive tasks, and everybody's talking about this, right? And we all know when we go to panels and, we keep repeating the same thing. So the trend, it's, a lot of the commoditized tasks, thanks to AI, right? They're going to be priced, as a commodity, right? I'm do this in VA, right? I do this operating agreement. And in the incremental, which is still, it has to be reviewed by a qualified expert, right? A lawyer, an accountant. That time is going to go into the value of that time is going to be premium, right? And, we're going to see probably increases in the billable hour for those that can do it, right? So at some point, and this is the trick, right? At some point, you can squeeze much from a client, right? So at some point, you can continue to increase this value. So what is left, right? It's how you're going to continue your profit per partners, right? So you can only squeeze this so much. You can only fine tune this much, but you have all the back office operations and operational efficiencies. And I think that's the real angle and wedge for professional services leveraging AI, which is how we can do more processes that are more efficient, how we can reduce our expenses, right? How we can optimize our workflows. If I was using, these many tools, resources, people, right? How can I start using agents or the like to really, maintain my margins, right? But reducing the cost. And I think that's the play in professional services right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the agentic workflow. It's like as we kind of automate that workflow.
And it's something beautiful, right? So we started out with RPAs, right? The robotics process automation, right? Then we have the agents, right? Now we have the intelligent agents, right? And now we have the agents that manage the other agents. But what makes it really, really real is things like operator, right? So a lot of the functions and you guys live and breathe, all these operations. A lot of that it's going to websites, right? Looking at data here, right? So all that it's already in our fingertips. I was playing with operator, right? I gave them a list of things of websites, just go and do the research. It's not perfect. It's only been out for, a couple of weeks or something like that. But the capabilities, it's incredibly stellar what they can do for you. Imagine things like e-billing, right? So e-billing, right? Part of what e-billing was doing, it was, going to all the different websites, submitting your invoices, e-filing. You gotta go to all these websites, submitting the invoices, right? And in the other side, it's yes, startups really, really need to be aware of these capabilities to match it. You have the tech to match it with the right problem, right? You have the solution to match it with the right problem. The next, there is a new frontier that is also coming from within the firms, right? So the firms have very similar capabilities that my startup has, right? So, that's something. It used to be the days that, hey, remember, build versus buy, right? That was crazy, right? How can you gonna build, right? And actually, we use it even with the billing hub, right? I mean, how come you're gonna build your own, right? And that's the days of the building versus buying is that, right? And SaaS, we have all the servers, right? So right now, it's a different game. Within the innovative organizations, I see a lot of potential for them leveraging existing tools within the boundaries of security, privacy, and all that to build themselves.
Mm-hmm. And you're seeing that. You're seeing that already happening. And that wouldn't, that would not have you would not have seen the people that are capable of doing that, as part of your employee roster a few years ago.
And that's the all the tools and all the tech to build new tech. It's been so democratized that you have the same capabilities that I might have in my startup, right? You have a great talent. I have also great talent. For example, look at Cursor. They create, this is AI, incredible company doing editing code. In 2 years, right, they're predicted to go to 100 million in revenue.
Mm.
Okay? They just closed a 100 million round, okay? A seed round, right? So I told you that our seed rounds were more than $10 million in valuation, right? So this is $100 million dollar round based on almost $3 billion valuation at seed round. So that is just not so, right? It's because the value that they are bringing to the market for developers, it's so immense, right? That, the market is willing, the developers, the market is willing to pay for all that, right? To get that value to expedite the creation of technology today. So it's fascinating times.
So I want to go back briefly to the Fund XX and really kind of talk about something that I think is your personal journey and the mentorship that you are bringing to the companies that you're investing in and others. So I know that you've coached many women and other minority founders. What do you personally get out of, I'm sure there's an enjoyment to that as well. And, can you talk about your experience with the mentorship part of it and what kind of how that kind of influences your approach to investing and as well as mentoring?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. I appreciate that. So, Greg, I will start it out for putting a little bit into perspective the market. And last year in 2024, 190 billion were deployed by VCs in different stages. 190 billion. Out of that 190 billion, 3% dollar-wise went to women. right? In terms of deal count, 6% of deals involve women founders or all women teams, 6%. And then 15% of the deals that, got VC money were mixed teams. Okay. So still, there is a big gap, to level set entrepreneurship for women. So what I get most joy, it's how can we support the next generation of women builders that really have incredible ideas, understand, a problem, can bring a solution to that, right? But they need two things, capital and access. And I think the most rewarding thing that I've done in this life, it's what we're doing at the Fund Exec, which is we provide capital. Always it's never enough, but also we provide access. And access is one of the things that I think we all have to, continue supporting and providing. And because with access, you can, network, have better access to customers, to funding, and those type of things. And that's the journey that we are on.
I'm gonna bring up a third rail issue here. I know that there's a big push in the new presidential administration to kind of frame the topic that you don't need special access for people, that the market should kind of guide this on its own. And you're a little bit different in that you're a private company that's doing this and not a government entity. But you hear a lot of pushback on being focused in on minority interest or women-owned companies. So how do you argue the other side of that and say, no, this, and I think you've hit on it quite a bit with the funding and access. How do you have that conversation to say, we don't have the right amount of funding and access at this point, that this is something that is needed in the market, when you have people that are arguing the other side that this is not needed?
Yeah, and yes, it's we've been as this, as running a fund as a VC that it's focused on investing in women. This is something that right now is top of mind, Greg. So we are kind of like rethinking options, strategies, and it's kind of like everybody's entitled to their opinion, but also, but the facts are the facts, right? So the 6% of deals for, 190 billion, it really tells a story that, we gotta be intentional to provide more opportunities for women in venture and in entrepreneurial ecosystem. So again, we may label it in a different way, right? Just to be more comprehensive in our approach, right? More encompassing, which is great. But I think that the mission is how we can impact more women and change the numbers.
So, would you say sort of the access and funding are probably the biggest challenges for the women-led startups in the next few years?
I think, yeah. It's money.
Mm-hmm.
It's money, and I didn't talk about, but the funding, the funding challenge, it's twofold. On one end, not enough capital is deployed for women and mixed teams. But on the other hand, is the fund managers like me, we only represent less than 12% of the investment managers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say 1 of every 10, you have a woman making investment decisions. So one of the narratives that we're also changing at the fund execs, about 90% of our LPs are women. So we also want to present opportunities for more women to understand this asset class as an opportunity for them to invest. And when we are intentional, bringing more, dollars and dollars from women into the ecosystem, I think it the playing field start to leveling a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the funding to the entrepreneurs and to the founders, but also how can we bring more women into the investment, which is still it's not large enough in this asset class. There is
Mm-hmm.
something, beyond the stock market for women.
Well, let me not. Oh, go ahead, Marlene.
Oh, did you have another question? Because I was
Yeah,
going to
I
do crystal ball. So
yeah, before we get to the crystal ball, I want to reset this because I feel like that was kind of a downer question. So let me flip it. And so Gaby, looking back at your career, what would you say has been one of the most significant moments in your growth and what you've done?
I think, and I'm sure that many women founders can relate. It's when I made a decision. Before I started Evening Hub, I was working. I was kind of like the CIO of a large insurance defense firm in Western Pennsylvania. And I think that moment, it's when I made the decision, I'm gonna leave my high-paying job. I believe in what I'm doing is gonna bring enormous value. So I left my job. I was starting a family, right? I didn't have the income that I used to because I believe so much in this opportunity, so much in myself that it really transformed everything. So on one end, I had this opportunity to really create this solution within a firm that I love and I owe them a lot. But also it was this transformational moment of growth. Okay, if I really want to do this, right, I have to jump, right? I gotta believe, I cannot look at everything as an obstacle and really believe that, we can do this. And that was like 17 years ago, 15 years ago. It was well worth it. And probably, Greg, before that, it was also living Venezuela. So I left, I'm from Caracas, Venezuela originally, and I left my country in 1996 to look for better opportunities. So that was kind of like, a transformational moment for me. And now I'm more American than, or as American as you guys, with an accent.
I was going to say I could tell that Western Pennsylvania accent there.
yeah, that comes right out.
I know. Yeah, appreciate that.
All right, so Gaby, this is the time for our crystal ball question where we ask all our guests sort of to look into the future in their crystal balls and sort of share what they see. And I'm curious, what do you think the biggest challenges and opportunities are? I'm going to say for sort of legal tech and law firms, we've talked a lot about the opportunities for women, but I just want to kind of know in general what do you think we're going to see and what should we be prepared for?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like a touch on that through the conversation, but I think for the builders, for the creators of technology, or especially legal tech, professional services tech, the thing that the real thing that needs to be mastered is not the tech itself, it's go to market. So, like we were chatting about, it's never been easier to really create amazing tech in the history of humankind. So, but as it gets commoditized, it proportionally or even exponentially, the complexity to figure out the right go-to-market motions, the complexity to acquire and retain customers, is the name of the game for for the creators of tech, startups, vendors, and all that. For firms and organizations, it's how do you choose between all these of applications, solutions popping up every day, right? Are you guys equipped to evaluate these technologies? Do you have frameworks, policies, and even procedures of how you're gonna evaluate in the time that we are right now? And you are not relying on the playbooks that you have 5 years ago, right? 10 years ago, or even 3 years ago, right? So it's a velocity game, right? But I think it goes back to the fundamentals, right? For startups, are you adding enough value? And do you know what it takes to really differentiate yourself? It's all about positioning, right? So, and when you do this right, you position yourself in the eyes of the customer. So you make it easier for the customer to buy your solution. And that's what you guys want on the buyer seat, right? And that is the challenge for all the emerging companies and even established vendors. So it's mastering your positioning, your messaging, and your go-to-market strategies.
Very good. Well, Gabriela,
Easy peasy.
Oh,
Easy peasy, exactly.
yeah, it doesn't. But now I know what to do.
Exactly.
Got it all worked out, right?
All right. Well, Gabriela Isturiz from the XX Fund, I want to thank you very much for coming in and joining us on the Geek and Review. It's been great having you here.
Thank you for having me, Marlene and Greg. Appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you, our listeners, for taking the time to listen to the Geek and Review podcast. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a colleague. We'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn. Yeah,
and I actually changed the Blue Sky to what is it? It's the Geek Law Blog is now, so it's our URL. So we're on Blue Sky as well.
Nice.
Yeah, Gaby, we'll put links in the show notes, and I know there was a couple of things that you had mentioned. We'll make sure those are out there. But what's the best way for people to learn more about the Fund XX or to connect with you?
I think go to my LinkedIn, and you can see my newsletter, Build Legal Tech. You can learn more about the Fund XX, right? And yes, and DM me if you're building something great, you have ideas, right? Or just want to geek out about tech. You can DM me. Pleasure to be here.
Nice.
Great. And as always, the music you hear is from Jerry David DeSica. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
But I'm